Hello, ma'am.
Hello, am I audible, ma?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Yeah.
Shall I
Uh,
start, ma'am?
yeah, just hold on. Uh, any one of you are recording this?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Why, as a routine, you do, amma?
Yes, ma'am. We usually record it.
Okay. Why? For all the absentees, sir?
Some of them they have to attend the
What?
GCC duty, ma'am. That's why
What duty?
Greater Chennai Corporation duty.
Oh,
I
okay. Okay. So, very good morning. So, who are all unmuted? Only you were?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 1 minute, I'll. Okay, shall we start, Bharati?
Yes,
How many of
ma'am.
you are present?
1 second.
Yeah? How many of you are present, ma?
47. Till now, 47, ma'am.
What's your total strength?
62, ma'am.
Evlo?
62.
Okay. Okay. Shall we start or we'll wait for them?
We'll start, ma'am. They'll join soon, ma'am.
Okay.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So before you start, a very good morning. I'm Dr. Sharmila, Associate Professor in Medicine. So it's very unfortunate that we are not able to meet. If you're not able to hear me, you please tell me, okay?
yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, clinical classes, or in other words, bedside clinic are meant to be done only in the bedside. Yes. So, this is very unfortunate. I hope by a couple of months we'll be back to the wards. Okay. So, until then, this is something like a preliminary class to sensitize you the methodology of examination and approach towards any patient. So please don't be carried away by the presentation and just don't be sticking on to it. We learn a lot more when we see patients. Okay. So yes, Bharati, you can start.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Ravi, a 74-year-old retired male hailing from Tiruvanmure, came with the chief complaints of breathlessness for the past 6 months, palpitations for the past 1 month, chest pain for the past 1 week, history of presenting illness. The patient was
1 minute,
apparently
1 minute, 1 minute. So the chief complaints are chest pain,
breath.
breathlessness, and
Pal-
palpitations, right?
yes,
Okay. Now, is there any particular order that you have to follow when you ask for chief complaints?
yes, I mean, depending upon the duration, ma'am. The first it started first, we have to mention it, ma'am.
So, what is
And
that called? Chronological order.
chronological.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. So, the patient here has given you three complaints: breathlessness for 6 months, palpitations for 1 month, and chest pain for 1 week.
one.
So, the chronological order is very important. To start with, it is breathlessness. So, we are now dealing with cardiac cases. Can one of you tell what are the five cardinal symptoms of cardiology or cardiac case? Anyone other than Bharati?
Chest pain,
Very good.
edema, bilateral pedal edema.
Will the patient say
Oh, yeah, edema.
pedal edema, or as far as possible, you should avoid medical terminology in the history? Swelling of the legs. So, see,
Swelling
there's
of the
something
leg.
called cardinal. Five
Okay.
cardinal. Edema of the legs does not come in cardinal. Chest pain, agreed. Next.
Palpitation,
Good, excellent.
dyspnea,
Breathlessness or dyspnea, excellent.
syncope,
Excellent. And then
Orthopenia and PND, ma'am.
Okay, that is also part of dyspnea only. So the other one would be some textbook says hemoptysis. I'll tell you why hemoptysis in CVS is more important. Okay. Okay. So these are the 5 cardinal. So of which this patient has 3 cardinal symptoms. So while elaborating the history of presenting illness, we deal with these 3 and then we move on to the other cardinal symptoms and then we ask for other symptoms. See again, human body should be considered as a whole. Okay, so only for our convenience, teaching purpose, we are dividing into CVS, RS, CNS, and abdomen. Actually, all these 4 are interconnected. Okay, and to be very practically speaking, all these are only for your exam purposes. Most of the patients that we will see after completing MBBS or after even finishing MDS, what common cases that you see, you think? Once you finish your MBBS, what do you think are the common cases that you're going to see? Anyone?
MI.
Oh my God, you have super specialized to cardiology, yeah? I'm asking you a very simple question. After you graduate, what are the more common things are common in medicine? What are the common cases that you see when you say, suppose this is Saratha, who's that? Who answered?
Anushwara, ma'am.
Okay, Anushwara, after completing your MBBS, Anushwara is going to start a clinic until you prepare for your post-graduation. So, what are the cases you expect in your clinic?
Cough and cold, fever.
Very good. So, acute febrile illness, respiratory infection, and then what else? Asthmatics, then diabetic, hypertensive. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, but for exam purpose, this has been an old pattern of studying all these type of rheumatic heart disease, congenital heart disease. But anyway, so this is our pattern. Okay, let's start with the case again. Yeah, back to Bharati.
Yes, ma'am. History of presenting illness. The patient was apparently normal 6 months back, after which he developed dyspnea for the past 6 months, gradual in onset, progressive in nature, progression from grade 1 to grade 2, according to New York Heart Association, aggravated on exertion, relieved on rest, no history of paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, orthopnea, trypopnea, or platypnea.
Okay, just hold on. So this is about dyspnea for the past 6 months. Okay. So I have a question. Any patient, a 74-year-old patient, okay, just you need to imagine yourself, is coming to you with complaints of breathlessness. So what should come through your mind? I want anyone else other than Bharati to answer. Just breathlessness. What are the things that should run through your mind? So you should enjoy learning medicine.
COPD.
COPD, very good. Next. Next. அப்புறம் bronchial asthma, coronary artery disease, chronic kidney disease. Okay, na? So to understand the causes of dyspnea, what you need to know is this patient is having dyspnea for 6 months. Okay, so this is something like a chronic cause of dyspnea you should think of. I'll tell you, where do you get dyspnea within minutes? Say, for example, see, I'm normal until now. So suddenly after 5 minutes, if I develop acute onset of breathlessness, what do you suspect?
Pulmonary embolism, MI.
Pulmonary embolism, MI, bro?
Cardiac tamponade.
Good. What is cardiac tamponade? Foreign body sollama, foreign body inhalation, foreign body. Okay.
Maybe.
Adukapro? Enama?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. So foreign
CO
body inhalation, some poisoning, yes, carbon monoxide poisoning. Adukapro? acute pulmonary edema. Okay. Now, what is this acute pulmonary edema? It can happen both due to a coronary artery disease or because of a chronic kidney disease also. Okay. Okay. Now, what if I develop dyspnea with
Hello.
say for example, hello, yeah. Say for example, I've been having a mild discomfort. I do not know whether it is dyspnea or not, but for the past 2 or 3 days, I understand there's some kind of breathlessness I developed. What do you think? What are the possibilities?
COVID, ma'am.
Enema? What? Commit. See, I will tell you, only when you commit and make blunders, you can learn. And those are the persons who will really do well in the exams. The one who is quiet, giving an appearance that they know everything or they don't know everything, will fumble in the exam. So it's okay. You can commit. So all of us are learning, and medicine is a lifelong learning process. Yes.
COVID, ma'am.
Corona. So I mean, okay. So pneumonia. Good. So for to rule out any pneumonia, should rule out a history of fever and other chest symptoms. Okay. Okay. When you have for months together, when it is recurring, then you should think of what are the causes. Like in this case, I am not sure whether it is recurring, but this is a chronic cause of dyspnea. So what are the things that should come to your mind now?
Interstitial lung disease.
Possible. Excellent. COPD, somebody said. Excellent. Bronchiectasis, bronchial asthma, coronary artery disease, recurrent episodes of acute pulmonary edema and a chronic kidney disease. So what I want to tell you is 6 months duration of dyspnea will tell you there's something chronic, not an acute cause. So these are the possibilities that you should think. Now the point I want to convey here is just don't fix up your idea that you'll be given a case of CVS all the time and then you'll be asked to assess. No, you should tune your mind with whatever complaint patient comes to you with. What are the things you should think of and how to proceed next? Okay, so simple breathlessness alone will not give you a clue that it is a CVS case. It can now be as I told you, an ILD or a COPD also or a CKD also. God only knows. We need to evaluate. Yes. Now coming to this, as a cardiac case, what are the definitions you should know is, I want certain things you should put in black and white. So please have a notebook and just you need to write down the New York Heart Association classification. Okay, what are the 4 grades? You need to write it down because at the end of your final year, when you finish up all the 5 subjects, you will understand you will not remember anything. You will get confused with modified MRC grading, that which is used in RS, with that of the NYHA classification. So since this is a first class, I will not ask you much questions into the subject. Okay, so I request you to write down what is NYHA classification. Is that okay? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Number 2 is, can anyone tell what is orthopnea?
Being able to breathe only in an upright position, ma'am. On lying down, the person has difficulty breathing.
Yeah. Good. What does that tell you?
The breathlessness might have a cardiac origin. There might be a cardiac disease.
Okay. Okay. So to make it more clear, what I would say is orthopnea is developing breathlessness within few minutes of lying down. Okay, that indicates severe or late stage of left heart failure. Be clear, I'm not telling you whether it is a left ventricular failure or a left atrial failure. I am just telling you that it is a left heart failure, which means it's not only left ventricular failure, even in a left atrial failure, where do you get left atrial failure or dysfunction, which can result in orthopnea?
Mitral
stenosis.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so be careful in your usage of words. So where do you get left ventricular failure, which can result in orthopnea?
Aortic stenosis.
Aortic.
aortic stenosis, mitral regurgitation, coronary artery disease, dilated cardiomyopathy, and so many causes. Okay, so let us classify it as late stage of left heart failure will result in orthopnea. So the mechanism, as somebody says, the moment you lie down, the venous return to the heart is increased. So already there's a failing heart which will not be able to handle the extra load. And then when you lie down, your diaphragm is pushed up, which increases the intrathoracic pressure. That can also be one of the cause, right? Okay. Now, what is paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea? Somebody else?
After a few hours of lying down, the patient develops breathlessness and he wakes up from sleep.
Excellent. They say up to 3 to 5 hours after going to bed, the patient suddenly becomes breathless and then goes out to the window. That's a description given in your textbooks, if I remember, your Alagappan. Okay. So the patient gasps for breath, goes to the window, and then say after half an hour, the breathlessness settles down. This is a history of paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea. Again, where do you get paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea? And what are the mechanisms?
Decreased sympathetic tone during the night time.
It is, come again?
Decreased sympathetic tone during the
Excellent.
night time.
Excellent. So that is an additional factor in other factors like lying down, which increases the venous return, and pushing up of diaphragm and so on. There's a decreased sympathetic drive, okay, in the night, so which results in breathlessness. Now, in this context, okay, what do you think is the cause? For
Ischemic heart disease.
Yeah, darling, see, you need to understand for every symptom you ask the patient, you should have you should have the knowledge why you're asking. Okay, so as I told you, orthopnea means late left heart failure. Paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea suggests you a early left heart failure. Okay. Again, as we discussed, the causes might be the same, from left atrial failure due to mitral stenosis, or a left ventricular failure due to mitral regurgitation, aortic regurgitation, aortic stenosis. So, for all purpose, we divide the cardiac symptoms due to diseases of the pericardium, disease of the myocardium, and diseases of the endocardium. All your valvular heart disease comes in endocardium, and myocardium is the coronary artery disease. Okay, when you have decreased flow to the muscle, you will get a ischemia or an infarction that can result in all these symptoms. And pericardial diseases predominantly results in chest pain. Okay, so you cannot fix up, it is only ischemic and this can happen in all the three conditions. Again, cardiac tamponade can cause breathlessness. Yes. So cardiac tamponade is the collection of fluid within the pericardial space. Again, disease of the pericardium can also result in breathlessness. Okay, yes. Move on to the next. And the stripopnea, platypnea, you need to read up now. Stripopnea is just lying on one side, and platypnea is getting up while you're in the upright posture, you get dyspnea, whereas in the lying position, you'll feel comfortable. Causes of platypnea? Anyone knows?
Left atrial
myxoma.
Okay, so I understand most of you have started reading the textbook. So it is just because the change in the posture, it's a mobile structure. Myxoma is a mobile structure. In particular position, you will have closure of the mitral valve. So in that cases, you might have symptoms like while sitting, something like that, right? And sometimes you get an ASD also, atrial septal defect. Yes. Yeah, let's move on to the next symptom.
Yes, palpitations for the past 1 month, which is regular, gradual in onset, which is a few minutes duration, is not paroxysmal, aggravated on exertion and relieved by rest, associated with chest pain.
Okay. Now so much history of taken for palpitations. Excellent. So now, what does palpitation mean? First of all,
unpleasant awareness of one's own heartbeat.
Excellent. Now, this history of palpitations is very important because it gives a clue about what we are dealing with. So two things should come to your mind whenever the patient gives a history of palpitations. What are they? Anyone can guess?
Hypoglycemia.
Hypoglycemia. Okay, good. Increased sympathetic activity. Adanala. Yes. Yes.
AFib, ma'am.
Enama?
AFib.
What is that AFib, madam?
Atrial fibrillation.
Yes, good, excellent. Arrhythmias. Okay, so whoever said hypoglycemia, excellent, will be a very good practitioner. But pertaining to the CVS, in the given case, palpitations in the CVS case will give you clue about two things. One, somebody has told you an arrhythmia, among which, since we are dealing with valvular heart disease now, atrial fibrillation is more common. So, there's a saying in medicine, what the mind does not know, eyes do not see. So, here we've got a very important clue from the patient that the patient is having palpitation. You should be careful enough to rule out an arrhythmia. So, while checking the pulse, you should be really careful in assessing for a sinus rhythm or a atrial fibrillation. Any other clue that you can pick up from the palpitations? Any other? I'm amazed by all your answering. Yes.
Hypovolemic state, ma'am.
Hypovolemic state will cause reflex tachycardia. But yeah, good. Okay. Other than that, in the given case, I'm again telling you, in the given case of a valvular heart disease, the DM level, I'm just seeing how you approach.
Even in anemia, palpitation can come.
Yeah, you're telling all non-cardiac causes. Yes. What are the other causes of
Aortic
non-cardiac causes?
regurgitation.
Yes. So, okay. So, I'll finish. Before I forget, I will tell you, excellent, whoever has answered aortic regurgitation. Any regurgitant lesion, it can be aortic regurgitation or mitral regurgitation. Okay. That can lead on to volume overload, which can result in a palpitations. So, the patient in your case, in a cardiac valvular heart disease case, tells you about palpitations. One, you should rule out an arrhythmia in form of a atrial fibrillation, which is more common. Else, if the patient is having sinus rhythm, you should be careful enough to auscultate and look out for a regurgitant murmur. Simple. Okay. Okay. Since somebody has commented about non-cardiac causes of palpitations, can anyone tell the causes of non-cardiac causes here?
Hyperthyroidism.
Hyperthyroid, excellent. Then anemia,
Drug
somebody
intake.
said.
Pheochromocytoma.
Pheochromocytoma, that's a paroxysmal palpitations. Excellent. Then
Drug usage like atropine, adrenaline.
common
Anxiety state.
anxiety. என்னமா காஃபி டீயா? சரி, anxiety இதெல்லாம் பார்க்கலாம், உங்க பரீட்சையில பார்க்கலாம். We will see how many of you are having palpitations in it. Yes, anxiety, excellent. Then all volume overload status like anemia. என்னமா?
Can exercise cause?
During exercise, okay, hyperthyroidism, fever, beriberi, thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, all this can cause palpitations. Okay, good. Next symptom. I think we are going a bit slow. Paravalla, you learn. Chest pain. Yes, Bharati.
For the past 1 week, ma'am, gradual in onset, which is substernal in site, squeezing type of pain, intermittent in duration, radiating towards left shoulder, ma'am. Aggravated on exertion, relieved by rest. It is associated with palpitations and not associated with food intake.
Okay, now chest pain. I'm asking you, what does this chest pain mean? Leave alone this case. Say your party, your neighbor, or anyone. When you start practicing, you will have all these issues. When anyone comes to you with chest pain, so the cause of chest pain varies according to the age and with the nature of the pain. But let us rattle out the causes of chest pain. Yes, what are the causes of chest pain?
Gastritis pain confused with
gastritis. அப்புறம்
CVS cause, RS cause, musculoskeletal costochondritis.
CVS cause, RS cause. I should tell the causes. Tell out, man. சொல்ல CVS cause எது? which will cause chest pain? Angina pectoris. Yes.
Aortic dissection.
Aortic dissection. Excellent.
Pericarditis.
Pericarditis. Very good. So whatever you have told, I will tell out again. So if our patient is coming to you with chest pain, all of you will think of gastritis, angina pectoris, aortic dissection, pericarditis. Where ஏதாவது யோசிப்பீங்களா? Somebody said costochondritis. Excellent. அப்புறம்
Herpes zoster.
herpes zoster. Excellent. Excellent. Herpes zoster வந்து should look out for the lesions. Yes. அப்புறம்
Chartitis cum pulmonary.
Esophageal obstruction, ma'am.
Esophageal obstruction. Somebody said pulmonary embolism. அப்புறம் pleuritis சொல்லுவோமா?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So I think actually when you should say from anterior to posterior, some methodology should have. So what first I would like to insist is not all chest pain are cardiac. You need not panic all the time. Again, it is important symptom. But you need to think there are so many causes of chest pain, right from costochondritis, okay, right from muscular pain, right from gastritis to gastroesophageal reflux disease to any obstruction to any cardiac. Angina pectoris means it is a coronary artery disease that we need to describe later. The typical nature of the pain will tell you whether it is angina pectoris or not. Okay. And then you have pleuritis pain, which is very superficial, which increases on taking deep breath or coughing. Pericarditis is also similar to that, more in the chest. Okay, here what she has given is the typical pain of angina pectoris. And again, aortic dissection and pulmonary edema, the patient will be in shock. Okay, pulmonary embolism resulting in a pain usually is a severe grade. You will have a severe pulmonary infarction resulting in pain. And again, aortic dissection also, it's a very tearing retroperitoneal pain. That time the patient will almost be in diaphoretic stage, in almost shock. Very rarely we'll have a chronic, mild, ongoing aortic dissection also. But that is, that does not present to you with severe chest pain. Their complaints will be different. Okay, backache, and the maridar. So when you say aortic dissection as a cause of chest pain, there will be a tearing pain where the patient will be almost in shock. Okay. Now this chest pain, what she has given, anyone can tell what does that categorize into in whatever we have told now?
Angina
pectoris. Okay. Now this is the classical description of all setup case sheets, no? So this is the classical presentation of angina pectoris. Angina pectoris is the chest pain for almost lasting for about 3 to 5 minutes, which is increased on exertion and relieved by rest or any sublingual nitrates. That pain, which is associated with sweating, which is radiating to the left shoulder or jaw. This is a classical angina pectoris, sometimes associated with palpitation based on the associated underlying condition. Now tell me, what do you think? What are the causes of angina pectoris?
Mismatch between demand and supply.
Excellent. So what is the commonest cause of angina pectoris?
Coronary atherosclerosis.
Coronary
atherosclerosis.
Okay, CAD, coronary arterial disease. Excellent. Okay, so I got this. Now, what do you think is the reason for chest pain in this patient? We are not dealing with coronary artery disease, I guess. You have been given a valvular heart disease, yes or no?
Yes.
So it is something to do with the endocardial disease. Now, in this given case, how will you explain this angina pectoris? Can anyone try?
Left ventricular hypertrophy.
Left-handed. So the basic physiology somebody has given, when there's a mismatch between the demand and the supply, you will have this, okay, angina pectoris. So in the given aortic valvular heart disease, it is because of the left ventricular hypertrophy. Okay, this is accepted as an undergraduate level, but there are too many reasons. What they say is, when you have a left ventricular hypertrophy, when the coronaries are entangled between the hypertrophied muscle fibers, so that can cause an obstruction of the coronaries from outside. And there are so many other causes and explanation given if you go to higher textbooks of angina pectoris and aortic valvular disease. Okay, am I going a little high up, or is it okay? All of you can understand? Is it boring?
No.
Yeah. Next, ma.
No, there is no history of loss of consciousness, no history of cough with expectation, no history of pedal edema, no history of abdominal distension, no history of dyspepsia, no history of right hypochondrial pain, no history of puffiness of face, no history of fever.
Wait. Previous slide. So for each line, you have to tell me, why did you ask? Loss of consciousness is
Syncope, ma'am.
syncope. Okay, there is no history of syncope. So what is syncope? Where do you get?
Transient loss of consciousness due to cerebral hypoperfusion, ma'am. If there is any
Usually
left ventricular,
if
there is left ventricular outflow obstruction, there will be less blood supply to the brain, ma'am. So
okay. So what are the causes of syncope? You know, cardiac and non-cardiac.
non-cardiac, simple pains, seizure,
Pain?
simple faint, ma'am.
Pain shock. ஏ புக்கை வச்சு ஆன்சர் பண்றீங்களா பசங்களா? Yes or no?
Hello, ma'am.
Be honest. Sorry, okay. So pain shock, vasovagal shock. சரியா? Well, what happens when you stand for a long time? How many of you have fallen in your third year? You have never been to the wards only. Have you all been to the theater to see any case or to assist? Anyone of you? Yes. So when you stand there for a long time, what will happen? There will be pooling of blood in the legs. So there will be a transient, yeah. That is, most of you would have experienced something called near syncope. Okay? Okay. So cardiac causes of syncope. So what does that clue tell you? In the given case, if the patient is having syncope, what are the things that you should know? You can infer.
There is any outflow obstruction, ma'am, from the left ventricle.
Outflow obstruction, aortic stenosis. Yes, good. So commonest cause being a left ventricular outflow obstruction, like in case of aortic stenosis. The other being mitral stenosis, but very unlikely mitral stenosis produces syncope. So if the patient, this patient clearly says there is no history of loss of consciousness, so as of now we can, by history, we can rule out a aortic stenosis, underlying aortic stenosis, or if at all aortic stenosis is present, it is not severe enough. It is only mild. Yes. Why did you ask for cough with expectoration?
To exclude any RS causes, and as well as prolonged pulmonary edema can lead to RS infections, ma'am. So it can.
What is that called? Any name given to that? Prolonged pulmonary congestion can lead on to respiratory infections. What is that name called? Can it be a homework?
Winter bronchitis.
Hey, என்ன புக் வச்சிருக்க பக்கத்துல?
இல்ல மேம்.
Honest? உன் பேர் என்ன கண்ணா?
அனூப்.
Anup, excellent Anup. Where did you study?
Classes சொன்னாங்க.
Classes, yes. So what is which condition you get winter bronchitis?
Long-standing pulmonary edema.
Due to?
Right ventricular. Left ventricular. So congestion.
Somebody was attempting.
Mitral stenosis.
Excellent. So there's a book called Arup Kumar Kundu. He would have given 5 causes of hemoptysis in mitral stenosis. That's one of the causes in the winter bronchitis. Okay, excellent. Yes. So winter bronchitis can be seen. Why we should know is, interestingly, you should know, man. I had a case in my practice once upon a time. A patient presented with severe acute onset of breathlessness, cough. Okay, when I examined her, it was full of wheeze and harsh vesicular bronchial breath sounds. Couldn't localize. Okay, then after treating, again, when I asked the patient to come back to me, the other history and all, when I asked, she said she had difficulty in breathlessness. I mean, she's having breathlessness on walking for a short distance. Okay, so after clearing of the chest symptoms, when I asked her to come for a review, then I auscultated, we could pick up a mitral stenosis. So not all visas are only RS. So the other symptoms will help you. Okay, so that's how that patient had been shunting from doctors to doctors. So you should have that thought in the mind. So first you should develop a rapport with the patient. So the patient should come back to you for the review. Then only you can examine. Okay? Okay. Just to divert. Yes. Next.
No history of pedal edema.
And see, as far as possible, no medical terminology in the history technique. So no history of leg swelling. So what does leg swelling tell you?
In right heart failure, there will be pooling of blood, ma'am.
So in right heart failure, you will have swelling of the leg. So abdominal distension also same thing. Because of right heart failure or congestive cardiac failure, you will have swelling of the leg and abdominal distension. What do you mean by congestive cardiac failure or right heart failure? Or in other words, what is the commonest cause of congestive cardiac failure? By the term we mean congestive cardiac failure is because of the pooling, there will be congestion of the liver, which leads on to ascites. There will be congestion of the leg veins, which will lead on to pedal edema. There will be congestion of the neck veins, which will lead on to raised JVP, facial puffiness. So commonest cause of congestive cardiac failure is, anyone can try?
Long-standing
abdominal
anemia.
distension, ma'am.
Abdominal?
Distension, ma'am.
Abdominal distension, is this part of congestive cardiac failure, ma? Cause kekra.
Ischemic heart disease, ma'am.
Ischemic heart disease, or what we can say is left heart failure is the commonest cause of congestive cardiac failure or a right heart failure. The terminology right heart failure and congestive cardiac failure, it's the same. Okay. So left heart failure is the commonest cause of right heart failure. Yes. So all your abdominal distension, leg swelling, there's nothing called right hypochondrial pain. How will you ask the patient, you have right hypochondrial pain? No. Right-sided abdominal pain. Okay. So please do not use all these terminology. What is this dyspepsia? Why did you ask for dyspepsia?
Gas. To rule out gastritis.
Gastritis, why? In the given case, do you think gastritis is the reason? Anyone can explain this symptom in pertaining to the CVS case?
Ma'am, dyspepsia could be due to bowel valve edema resulting from right heart failure, ma'am.
Okay, it's not, you're right. It's not bowel wall congestion. It is called congestive gastropathy.
Congestive
Gastropathy. That is also because of congestive cardiac failure. Excellent. Okay, then puffiness of the face. Why did you ask for puffiness of the face?
In renal failure, there will be puffiness of face, ma'am.
Now, why do you want to think of renal failure in this patient, Bharati? See, it is always, you should exclude other causes. Congestive cardiac failure per se can cause a puffiness of the face. Even otherwise, you should rule out other causes of edema or volume overload status. One being renal failure. Okay, which is characteristically shown out as puffiness of face. Yes, move on, move on. We are now in the history only.
There is no history of fever with sore throat, no joint pain. There is no history of involuntary movements, no history of skin manifestation like rash or nodules, no history of voice change and dysphagia, no history of oliguria, no history of cyanotic episodes and squatting, no history of recurrent respiratory tract infections, no history of hemoptysis.
Okay, hold on, hold on. For each one of you, tell what's the reason. Why did you ask fever with sore throat and joint pain?
To exclude rheumatic fever, no?
Rheumatic fever.
Joint.
So what is say? I don't want to waste time. Again, as I told you, certain things you should write in your notebook. One is NYHA classification in CVS. Number 2 is rheumatic fever. What is the criteria called?
A modified Jones criteria.
Jones criteria.
Modified Duckett-Jones criteria. It started in 1992. Now it has undergone a lot of modification. There you have major criteria, minor criteria, supporting evidence. I want you to write it down in your notebook. So towards the exam, you'll only have time to just turn the pages and learn, right? Revise. So all of you will do?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Yes. Okay. So this fever, sore throat and joint pain comes in the criteria for rheumatic fever. Now, can I ask you a sensible question? Now, is this question of rheumatic fever history relevant to this case? If so, why? If not, why?
Rheumatic fever can affect the valves, ma'am, so there might be a cardiac
So
cause.
she has asked, yes. Can anyone tell? Can anyone say this is not needed in the case? Does anyone have that thought in their mind? If so, why?
And the patient is 74, so
Excellent, excellent. So going to the history of rheumatic fever, what is the history? What is the age of onset of rheumatic fever symptoms?
usually in the
5 to 15 years.
20s.
Excellent. 5 to 15 years, you will have rheumatic fever symptoms, all this fever, joint pain, sore throat. And it'll take another 5 to 10 years, say around 25 to 30 years, the patient will have, would have manifested rheumatic valvular heart disease, okay, if not treated properly. So our Indian population, they'll come to us, they'll take another 5 to 10 years, considering that all the symptoms due to anemia, weakness, generalized causes, and by the time of 40, they will land up with all the chest complaints. So for a patient with 40 to 50 years is okay. For a patient with 74 years who's been asymptomatic all 73.6 months, he was asymptomatic. Yes, that is what the first line of history of presenting illness told, that he was apparently normal until 6 months of age. Right? 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
So 74 years first வரும்போது, will you think of rheumatic etiology? It is unlikely. Okay. So for this completion sake, we do this. Okay. So now what do you think? You know, the question now again is, so what do you think is the reason for all these symptoms in a patient who was apparently normal until 73 years of age? What will you put it as first cause? Sensible thinking. What do you think? See, your tata or tata's friend is 73 years coming to you 6 months, all these complaints. What will you think? What will you suggest?
Hypertension.
Hypertension. அப்புறம் coronary artery disease சொல்லுவோமா?
Yes, sir.
Yes. ஒரு chronic diabetic னா ஒரு acute pulmonary edema due to chronic kidney disease கூட இருக்கலாம். சரி. Okay, given case is a valvular heart diseaseங்கறாங்க. So now valvular heart disease la what are the cause? One is rheumatic cause, rheumatic valvular heart disease. What are the causes of that? What are the other causes of valvular heart disease?
Infective endocarditis.
Infective endocarditis is a complication of rheumatic heart disease, or it can be because of other causes also. It is like what is so valvular heart disease, the infective endocarditis, somebody said, but okay, but usually our underlying ஒரு compromised heart diseaseல தான் வரும். Very rarely in rheumatological condition like SLE you will have infective endocarditis or okay. So in that case, the age group is again is not favorable for rheumatological disease also like SLE. Okay, so that's ruled out. Infective endocarditis illa. Next.
No history of.
I'm asking you causes of valvular heart disease. One is rheumatic etiology. Okay, somebody said infective endocarditis. Okay, agreed. Other than that,
senile changes like calcification.
Senile changes, that's called degenerative valvular heart disease. அதான் நீங்க உங்க பிரசன்டேஷனே ஃபுல்லா பாத்தீங்கனாலே தெரியுது. Okay, is there anything called congenital heart disease? I wouldn't tell.
Age of the patient.
Age of the patient. Anyway, I'm just asking you what are the other causes. Avladhaan. Good.
Bicuspid aortic
valve. Yeah. Who told bicuspid aortic valve?
Me, ma'am.
Okay. What's your name?
Ajay, ma'am.
Ajay, yeah? Okay, now Ajay, I'm asking you, what's the age of onset of congenital bicuspid aortic valve? See, somebody said congenital heart disease. This is not the age. Excellent answer.
Yes,
For one thing, there are few congenital heart disease which can present for the first time in the adulthood. Can anyone tell? Homework, Sir, only solidra. Only somebody said congenital bicuspid aortic valve. Totally, how many cusps are there in aortic valve?
3.
What are they? Anatomy book எடுத்து வச்சிருக்கணும் நீங்க. என்னமா அது? Right, left?
Non-coronary.
Or anterior posterior, what? Check out?
Leaflet.
The 3 leaflets. In pulmonary it is different, in aortic it is different. Just check out. Even I forgot. Okay. So when you have bicuspid aortic valve, only 2 cusps. Okay. So that presents only in the 5th or the 6th decade for the first time. Okay. The second congenital heart disease that can present for the first time in the adult, sometimes as late as 80 years also. That will be a homework for you. I cannot be telling you. Okay. Whoever finds the answer has to send it across to me through a WhatsApp message. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Next. Soluma apra.
No history of skin manifestations like rash or nodules.
What do you want to infer? Skin manifestations, nodules.
For infective endocarditis, there will be skin manifestations.
Okay. Again, Duke's criteria. Yes. For infective endocarditis also, you read up. That's a theory question also. So you put it down in your notebook. Yes. Voice change dysphagia indicating
left atrial enlargement can press over the larynx and there may be voice change and dysphagia.
What is that called?
Ortner syndrome.
Excellent. Ortner syndrome. Yes. Next.
No history of oligoria.
That is due to what? Ortner syndrome is due to?
Left recurrent laryngeal nerve compression.
Okay. The left atrial enlargement is due to?
Mitral stenosis.
Yes. Good. After oliguria is? Why did you ask for oliguria?
The patient might be in shock, ma'am. So
shock or a low cardiac output status in a LV dysfunction or left heart failure, like in chronic aortic stenosis, you can have oliguria. Yes. Cyanotic episodes in squatting.
To exclude any cyanotic heart diseases.
So come again, cyanotic heart disease in this age group, 74 years. What do you think? Can you get what is that in your mind? Where do you get cyanotic episodes? Squatting episodes. Where do you get pa?
Right to left shunts.
Right to left shunts. Okay. So basically, okay, what are the 5 T's?
5T.
Repeat. 5 T's, right to left shunts.
Transposition.
Tetralogy of phallic transmission of
Yes.
great arteries.
Yes. Good. So you should know all the 5 T's, of which TOF, tetralogy of Fallot, results in cyanotic episodes, especially during. So the compensating mechanism is squatting. So the typical squatting episodes in cyanotic spells suggest of TOF. Can you get what is the age of manifestation of TOF?
Seen in infants, ma'am, less than 1 year.
Yes. Okay, it shows up the very early stage. So here again, I repeat, one congenital heart disease that can present for the first time in the adulthood or even in the late adulthood as late as 8 years. That is your homework. Yes. Now, what do you mean by this recurrent respiratory tract infections and hemoptysis? Why did you ask, ma?
If pulmonary edema is present, there might be recurrent respiratory tract infections and
Hemoptysis?
Pulmonary hypertension, there will be
The pulmonary hemoptysis in mitral stenosis, they would have given five causes. Okay, like a winter bronchitis, then even the pulmonary edema, early pink frothy sputum. Okay, pulmonary sidrosis, hemosiderosis, all this can result in hemoptysis. So hemoptysis does not tell you it is only RS cause. It can happen in long-standing mitral stenosis associated with pulmonary hypertension and pulmonary congestion. Okay, yes, move on. Next.
past history, ma'am. There is no history of similar episodes in the
Just
past.
1 minute, ma. You have done a very good history of breast illness, but you need to add on other systems. Always, all the 4 systems are interconnected. You have mentioned about cardiac and respiratory symptoms and failure features. Do you think any abdominal distension is it? Any history of jaundice is important?
Yes, ma'am.
How can you correlate jaundice?
Congestive hepatomegaly leads to
It can
jaundice.
cause jaundice. Any other thing? What I want to tell you is all these are all interrelated. Jaundice can be because of infective endocarditis. Sariya? Right.
Yes.
You didn't mention anything about fever. It's very important. Again, infective endocarditis, rheumatic fever attack, all this will present with fever. So fever you missed out. Jaundice. Sorry. Okay. Next, move on. Past history.
There is no history of similar episodes in the past. There is no history of rheumatic fever, no history of hypertension, diabetes mellitus, TB, STDs, previous surgeries or thyrotoxicosis, no history of chronic respiratory tract infections or cyanotic spells. There is no history of chronic fever. Family history. There is no history of hypertension or diabetes mellitus. No relevant family history, ma'am.
Okay, so in the past history of similar complaints in the past is very important. And then there's no history of rheumatic fever. See, in the given case, you should tell. Okay, there is no history of systemic hypertension, diabetes. I would appreciate coronary artery disease. I would appreciate. Then all the other stuff like your STDs, STD age 74, TB, and what's that? Previous surgery, thyrotoxin, completion sake, you should know all this must be asked, but you should know for which clinical setting you should put all this history and which you should, okay,
yes, ma'am.
Neglect. And family history is okay. What are the heart diseases that can be seen in families?
Dyslipidemias can be.
Dyslipidemias, coronary artery disease, even. See, rheumatic heart disease actually per se is because of social, poor social, what I say, conditions like crowded families. History, there's no genetic transference. Yes.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is also.
HOCM, excellent, excellent, good. So summarize.
Mr. Ravi, a 74-year-old male, came with the chief complaints of dyspnea on exertion for the past 6 months, palpitations for the past 1 month, chest pain for the past 1 week. Probable system involved is serious. Disease is probably an acquired heart disease involving the left side. Probably a valve is involved. which is aortic valve, and there are no symptoms of left ventricular failure.
See, a summary you should always pick up all the positive. Suppose in the given case you have neatly put a PPT, which does not involve any past history. So, but for your practical purpose, I'm telling you, when you say 74-year-old male, next thing what you should gather from the history taking is whether he's a diabetic, hypertensive, then about the personal history, whether he's a smoker and alcoholic, அதுக்கப்புறம் whether any previous similar episodes இதெல்லாம் முடிச்சுட்டு தான் you have to tell about the presenting symptoms of dyspnea, persistence, palpitations, chest pain. Problem system involved is CVS. Adode I think you can stop. The other 2 lines is not needed in the history.
Okay.
That will only probe you for more questioning by the examiners. Yes, move on.
Yes. General examination, ma'am. Patient is conscious, comfortable, oriented to time, place, and person, moderately built and moderately nourished. No pallor, no icterus, no cyanosis, no clubbing, no generalized lymphadenopathy, no serial edema. Next.
Move on.
Vitus, pulse rate, 100
Just
beats.
hold on.
Okay.
Okay. See, there are certain things that you should look for in general examination of a cardiovascular system. Just move on to the previous slide. Okay, so patient is conscious, comfortable is for all cases. And what you mentioned about pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, I don't want to go into detail. Generalized lymphadenopathy. Actually, I hope somebody would have explained to you. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, what are the causes of pallor? Where do you look for pallor? இதெல்லாம் கேட்டிருக்காங்களா இல்லையாமா?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now tell me what are the causes of pallor?
Chronic congestive cardiac failure can lead to pallor.
Yeah, always you should tell common things first. This is what?
Nutrition.
Nutritional. Just say anemia. Anemia due to any cause, okay? So anemia is see, when you narrow down to a simple question, you are talking about high level thinking. Yeah. So pallor is anemia being one of the causes. So what are the other causes of pallor? What is pallor actually? What is pallor? Can anyone tell what is pallor?
Pale skin.
Paleness of the body. So one cause, somebody is coming like veluthu pona mari pale. One is anemia. What are the other things that you should think of? Shock. Shock due to any cause. Next, hypothyroidism can cause pallor. Okay, right. So all this is kind of theory reading, ma. What do you mean by anemia? What's a hemoglobin? You need to diagnose anemia in the Indian population. Okay, and where do you look for anemia? Lower palpable conjunctivitis. Yes.
Mucous membrane, ma'am. Mucous membrane of the mouth.
Base of the tongue. Okay. Mucous membrane.
Nail beds.
Too.
Nail beds, fingertips.
Palms.
Yes. Palms and overall body. Okay, right. Icterus. Define icterus.
Yellowish discoloration of sclera and mucous membrane.
Mucous membrane extra you should not tell. Okay. Yellowish discoloration of sclera. Okay. Why it is particularly sclera?
There it is first visible. Color display.
Enama?
There it is first visible, ma'am.
Where it is first visible? Any other answer?
It has high concentration of elastin, so it has high affinity for bilirubin.
Excellent. Very good. It has high elastin, concentration of elastin, where the unconjugated bilirubin binds. Yes. Okay. So where do you look for icterus? Yeah. You said somebody has discussed sclera.
Then again, palate.
Hard palate, soft palate, under surface of the tongue, then your palms and soles, whole body in severe cases. Yes. What is the minimal amount of bilirubin elevation must be there to be clinically manifested?
3 milligram per deciliter.
Yes, more than 2.5 says the old Harrison. Now they say 3. Yeah, just check out. More
Yes.
than 3 milligram per deciliter, you will have. Okay, clinical jaundice. Yes. Next, cyanosis. Define cyanosis.
Fluid discoloration.
Define cyanosis, pa.
Bluish
Again, bluish
discoloration.
discoloration. Yes. Putting my definition. See, you don't score marks when you talk about the surgery for mitral stenosis. You score only when you answer the basic questions. So all of you, be sound in your basics first. Okay, va?
Yes.
So, as definition la theriyano, what is central cyanosis causes? What is peripheral cyanosis? Want me to tell or you'll read up?
And central cyanosis is because of right to left shunts, and peripheral because of because of cardiovascular. I mean, arterial diseases.
Yeah. So you mean to say a arterial or a heart? What does peripheral cyanosis mean?
There isn't sufficient oxygenation in the extremities.
What are the causes? Example of peripheral cyanosis? Shock due to any cause, Raynaud's disease. Okay, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, whereas central cyanosis is because of the improper oxygenation because of conditions of heart and severe lung disease,
Yes,
or your cyanotic heart disease and severe pulmonary embolism. All this can cause central cyanosis. Okay. Now again, where do you look for cyanosis?
tip of the nose, earlobes, lips, and
Lips. Yes, correct.
then
Hard
palate.
palate. Yes. Okay, fingertips. Okay,
Finger.
good. Okay, what do you mean by generalized? Okay, clubbing. Define clubbing.
Proliferation of nail bed tissue, ma'am, leading to flattening of the Lowy bond angle.
What is Lowy bond angle?
It's the angle between the
Nail and the nail bed. What is normal?
160, ma'am.
160. Excellent. Okay. Again, it's all given in your textbooks. Please go read it. So, what are the theories of clubbing you should know? What are the grades of clubbing you should know? What are the causes of clubbing you should know? What are the serious causes of clubbing? So, we'll pertain to this case.
Infective endocarditis.
Okay, infective endocarditis.
Cyanotic heart disease.
Congenital cyanotic heart disease. Excellent. Apram. You have to read more textbook. Atrial myxomas. Okay, right. Pedal edema. Okay, now generalized lymphadenopathy. What do you mean by lymphadenopathies? There's another terminology that should be used. No significant generalized lymphadenopathy. What does that mean? Significant means?
Two continuous groups of lymph nodes are contiguous.
That is generalized.
Generalized.
If there are more than two non-contagious. Non-contagious means if my right axilla is involved, I mean right cervical and right axilla, these are all contagious. Instead of this, my right cervical involvement and the left axilla involvement, that is non-contagious. That tells about generalized. Significant tells you about the size. So if you have more than 1 centimeter increase in the node size in the cervical region, that is significant. Even 0.5 centimeter enlargement of axillary node is significant. More than 2 centimeter, what is that? More than 2 centimeter size in the inguinal region is significant. Yes, got it? Yes?
I didn't get it, ma'am.
So significant means it. Am I audible, ma?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Significant means the size of the lymph node. Okay. If the size of the lymph node in the cervical region is more than 1 centimeter, it is significant.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Whereas in the axilla, even if it is more than 0.5 centimeter, it is significant.
Okay.
Axilla, you should not palpate any lymph node at all in normal individuals. So even just more than 0.5 centimeter is significant lymphadenopathy. By the term we mean significant, that patient needs evaluation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And whereas lymph node enlargement of more than 2 centimeter in the inguinal region is called significant. Because, can anyone tell the reason? Most of the Indians are barefoot walkers, so they are likely to have recurrent infection through the foot, and inguinal lymphadenopathy can be common. When it is more than 2 centimeter, it is significant. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood? Can we
Understood.
proceed? Pedal edema. Pedal edema, leg swelling, again you need to describe what is the extent of the leg swelling. Whether it is up to the ankle or it is extending up to the knee, whether it is pitting or non-pitting, whether it is a fast edema or a slow edema. Okay. What are the causes of non-pitting edema?
Hypothyroidism, myxedema, coma, non-pitting.
Non-pitting, okay, yes, okay. Most common cause is hypoproteinemia.
Okay.
All other edema due cause becomes pitting. Okay. What is fast edema, slow edema? Any idea?
Fast edema is due to cardiac or renal causes. Slow is due to hypoproteinemia.
You're just telling the exactly opposite.
Okay.
Okay. So fast edema is within 30 seconds it refills. That is mostly due to hypoproteinemia. Slow edema is because of all other causes. Excellent. See, we are going in a slow pace with the history and the general examination. Since these are all beginning classes. Next classes all will be in the higher level. Okay? Yes? Yes, move on. Okay, before you move on to the vitals, there are certain additional history that you should, examination you should look out in general examination for CVS, RS, abdomen, and CNS. So for CVS, any other general examination findings you are expected to know? Anyone can give a clue? These are all the routine for all the system. Want to add on something for general examination in CVS cases?
Head to toe examination.
Head to toe examination. Excellent.
Markers of infective endocarditis.
Excellent. Any other markers?
Rheumatic heart.
Coronary heart disease markers.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other markers?
Congenital heart disease marker.
Okay. So you should look out for markers of rheumatic heart disease, congenital heart disease, degenerative heart disease, and infective endocarditis. Okay. So all this, even if you have findings or not, you should mention. So rheumatic heart disease unlikely in this age group. அப்படியே இருந்தாலும் clinical features general examination, what will you see in rheumatic heart disease? Or among the major criteria and minor criteria, what are the manifestations that can appear late in the adulthood? Very rarely subcutaneous nodules. Okay, but arthritis is unlikely to see in the adult. Only in the pediatric age group you can see. Next is infective endocarditis. You should breathe thoroughly from anemia. What are the markers of infective endocarditis?
Janeway lesion, Osler's nodes.
Head to foot somebody. Anemia, jaundice, fever, rot spots, splenomegaly. All your Janeway lesions, Osler's nodes. Okay? Hematuria, idellame kuduthirpaanga unga Davidson go read. Okay? Degenerative heart disease kenna paapinga? The given case la yes.
Arcus sinalis.
Enama Arcus sinalis. Appa, yes. Excellent. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, okay, I'll tell. your xanthelisma, xanthomas, arcus senilis, thickened arteries. Okay, read. Where do you get the xanthelisma?
Hyperlipidemia.
Hyperlipidemia.
Hyperlipidemia தான் lesion எங்க பாப்பீங்க clinically?
Eyelids. Eyelids.
Most of you would have seen soft tissue yellowish discoloration in the inner side of the eye over the eyelids, upper eyelids. Most of you would have seen that is xanthelisma. Xanthomas,
Tendons.
tendons, Achilles tendons, you'll have swellings. Then hardened vessels. When you roll out your radial, you can feel something like a hardened arteries. The marcus arcus senilis. Yes. Okay. There's something called Frank sign. What is that? உடனே கூகுள் பண்ணாதீங்க, ஹோம்ஒர்க் அது. நாளைக்கு சொல்லுங்க. நெக்ஸ்ட், congenital heart disease markers. Yes, shall we move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. At the end of the class, I will ask one of you to tell what are the homework I've given. Only if you answer the homework, next class I will continue. It's very simple. Okay, so don't worry, I will not forget the homework. Yeah, congenital heart disease markers, as I told you, it is not significant to this case. But if the patient presents in early adulthood, what are the congenital markers you are likely to see?
Polydactyly or erectile.
Head to foot, amma, head to foot.
Hypertelorism.
Yes, hypertelorism. So you're going to go and read, man. Everything we cannot say through. Then becomes a theory class. Already you're not seeing the patients. At least theory are padinga. Hypertelorism, anti-mongoloid slant. Then what?
Cleft lip,
pouted,
cleft palate.
Yes, cleft lip, cleft palate, pouted mouth, large tongue, single simian crease, syndactyly, polydactyly, saddle toe. படிக்கிறீங்களா? I have told you the markers of Downs and other syndromes. Okay? You need to read up. Yes, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we'll proceed. Move on. So in the markers, you need to go to vitals. Given to the this case, per se, you need to add something called peripheral markers that we will see later. Pulse. So again, before she starts, I'll tell you, for each system, you should mention about 5 vitals. Number 1 is pulse. Number 2 is blood pressure. Number 3 is JVP. Number 4 is temperature. Number 5 is respiratory rate. All the 5 should be present in all the systems that you present. First, pulse. Yes.
Pulse rate 100 beats per minute, regular in rhythm, high volume, collapsing pulse. All peripheral pulses are felt. No radial or radiofemoral delay. Suprasternal and hepatic pulsation seen. Locomotor brachii present. Vessel wall is sclerotic.
So all PPT la irukku. The next slide ponga. We will see what you have written.
Blood pressure, ma'am.
BP, respiratory temperature. Okay, now go back to the pulse. But now I have a query, ma. It's 11:50. What shall we do? Shall we continue for some more time and complete, or shall we stop with 12 o'clock? Accordingly, only I can elaborate.
You can continue, ma'am.
We'll see that we'll finish by 12:30. Okay, right?
Yes.
At the max. Okay. So pulse one day you should know definition of pulse, rates, everything. Okay. Again, what are the types of pulses you should read up? Slow rising pulse, collapsing pulse, pulses Besparians, pulses bigeminal. Take this opportunity to read about the theory part so that when you come to the clinics, you can directly apply. Okay. So you improve your base foundation by reading more. Okay. This high volume pulse. See, this is about the character, something about the character of the pulse that we spoke about. The types like the slow racing, okay, pulses parvus et tardus, then collapsing pulse, Besparians, bigeminal. By term volume, we mean usually we tell about the large volume and the small volume based on the BP, that is based on the pulse pressure and not just feeling the pulse. Okay, So when you mean it high volume pulse, which means you have checked the BP. Now, what's a normal pulse pressure?
30 to 60.
30 to 60 is always medicine, you need to tell the range. So the difference between systolic and the diastolic is called the pulse pressure. Normally it is 30 to 60 millimeter mercury. Anything below 30 millimeter mercury, you're going to call it as low volume. Anything above 60 millimeter mercury, you're going to call it as high volume pulse. Okay. More important is all peripheral pulses. What are the peripheral pulses that you'll check?
Radial, brachial.
எதுவுமே head to foot சொல்ல மாட்டேங்கிறீங்க.
Superficial, temporal.
Yes. Facial. Carotid. Axillary. Brachial. Radial. Then popliteal. Dorsalis. Posterior tibial and dorsalis. சரியா? But when we check, we only do carotid and radial. Okay. Now, is there anything that you need to do before checking carotids? Any precautions?
Don't palpate on both sides at the time.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. So this radio femoral now, why do you need to tell?
In coarctation of aorta, there may be a radiofemoral delay.
Okay. What do you mean by radial?
Difference between both the radial arteries.
Normally, will you have a difference, Amma?
It's not felt, ma'am.
Normally, will you have a difference between the right radial and the left radial? In terms of BP, any idea? Normally, what they say is the right side you will have a 10 millimeter increase in the systolic pressure when compared to the left for a right-hander. Okay, so if you have 130 in the right side as systolic, and if you have 120 in the left side, it's okay. Okay, if the difference is more, say 130 here and 110 in the left, you need to worry. That is what actually we mean by radial. Okay, so what are the causes? What do you think? Any one cause can you say for radial? Cervical ribble subclavian steel syndrome. Okay, right. Then she has mentioned
aortic dissection.
Aortic dissection. Okay, good. So where is the level of the aortic dissection? You should see before the left brachiocephalica and okay. So something she has mentioned about suprasternal locomotor brachii. What does that tell, Bharati?
Because of the high stroke volume, all the peripheral pulses are exaggerated and they can be visibly seen.
Okay, so these are all actually they are called as peripheral signs of aortic regurgitation or a high volume state, mostly due to aortic regurgitations. I want all of you to read and again write it down. Okay, because you need to know what it is. Then only you can see. It's all named signs. Can anyone say? Again, head to foot.
Becker sign.
Lighthouse sign.
Padikala. What is Demasset sign?
Head nodding.
Head movement.
According to the pulsations, head movement. Apro Landolfi.
Alternate contraction and relaxation of the pupil.
Lighthouse.
Flushing of face, ma'am.
Forehead. Okay. Then Muller's sign.
Uvula.
Pulsations in the uvula. Twinkies pulsations.
Fingertips pulsation.
Pulsations in the nail bed. Apro, what is Gerard's sign? Rosenbach sign.
Gerard's spleen pulsation. Rosenbach is liver pulsation.
Liver, yes. What is Hill sign?
Difference in BP in the lower limb and upper limb.
It is difference in the see the name itself is HILL, Hill, high in lower limb. Okay, so your lower limb BP must be higher than that of the upper limb BP by more than 20 millimeter of systolic blood pressure. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now what is this Durosis murmur, Durosis sign? What is this pistol shot murmur? Pistol shot
In
sounds.
femoral
Drop
artery.
sign.
Femoral.
Okay. I've given you the names. Read up. Locomotor brachiae. Durosis sign is different. Durosis murmur is different. Drop sign is different. Okay, right. Is that okay? Padichipinga, you want us to discuss?
Okay, ma'am.
We'll read.
You'll read. Good. Move on to the next slide.
Blood pressure, ma'am. Systolic 140, diastolic 60 millimeter of mercury. White pulse pressure is seen, measured in the left upper arm in supine position.
Okay. CVS Portamato, you need to check at least 3 BP. Okay. So 3 BP is your right, left, and lower limb BP. If you don't examine the BP, there will not be any clinical class at all. Then only you'll have online classes. When you come to the bedside clinics, you need to measure a BP, at least 1 BP, but you're supposed to measure 3 BP for all serious cases. Okay? Right.
Okay.
Now, what I wanted to tell you is, in the given case, you are expecting palpitations. So, sinus rhythm sollirukanga. So, if you have a atrial fibrillation, how will you measure pulse rate? If you feel it's an irregular pulse, how will you measure the pulse rate? Pulse rate should be measured for 1 full minute if the patient is in sinus rhythm. If the patient is in arrhythmia, or if you have an irregular pulse, what you have to do is 1 full minute you should measure in 3 occasions. Okay, you understand? 1 full minute you measure, you note it down. Second full minute you measure, you note it down. Third full minute you measure, you note it down. An average of the 3 full minutes will only give you the pulse rate in case of an irregular pulse rate. Okay, that I want to tell you. And regarding respiratory rate, temperature, it is not important to discuss in the CVS case. So we'll skip off.
Okay.
Next is JVP. JVP kano?
Temperature ki no elevation of JVP, hepatojugular reflexes are.
Okay, JVP is again that which has to be discussed only in the clinic spa. Okay, you cannot talk. JVP, you look JVP in the right side of the neck. Again, the positioning, you read up and come, we'll discuss. Okay, put the patient in head up position 45 degrees from the normal this. So then you need to look out for the veins. That also should look out. You should know to differentiate between a venous pulsation and an arterial pulsation. There are no theory talking. Only when you see, you will know. Okay. But before that, can anyone tell? Sorry. Okay. When we move on, we'll discuss next.
CVS examination, ma'am.
Excellent. So she has come to CVS examination. Before she starts off, I just want to tell you only one thing. What do you think is the ideal position for CVS examination? Ideal position of the patient.
Sitting upright, ma'am.
No. Okay. Supine is 30 degree head and elevation. Right? Right. So move on. Inspection.
Chest wall appears to be symmetrical, ma'am. Ellipsoid in cross section. Trachea appears to be in midline, ma'am. Apical impulse visualized at the left is the intercostal space, 1.5 centimeter lateral to the midclavicular line. No venous engorgement, precordial bulge, sinuses or scars, suprasternal pulsations and hepatic pulsations.
Sorry, okay, ma. Inspection one, chest wall appears to be symmetrical, thick. Next point is trachea and this appears to be in the midline. Okay. Then third point is apical impulse. This ellipsoid in cross section is we don't do a cross section. We don't have robotic eyes in Nanakara. Okay. Please avoid using this terminology, ellipsoid and cross section. You can stop the chest wall. Why should you look for the chest wall symmetry, ma? Can anyone tell? Can anyone tell? Have you seen patients with kyphoscoliosis? With severe kyphoscoliosis with something like a hunchback in the back?
Yes.
Yes. How many of you watched I movie? How will he be the hero in the climax towards the end?
Somewhat straighter.
Somewhat
Straighter.
straighter.
At the end, he gets wet.
அடேங்கப்பா நடுவுல சொல்லுமா when is infected.
Yes, ma'am. Bent over.
அதுதான் kyphoscoliosis. Okay. So why should you look for chest symmetry now? When you have kyphoscoliosis, basically in the movie they have shown like this. Basically, kyphoscoliosis means bony abnormalities which is present from birth. So when you have any abnormality, any bony abnormality from birth, the heart itself will be displaced. So when you have an asymmetrical chest, and you cannot comment anything about the apical impulse. Yeah, that is the idea by telling a chest symmetrical, you have ruled out any bony abnormalities. So all your chest, all your apical findings and other pulsations are pertaining only to the cardiac. That is what you're trying to say. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So there's nothing like ellipsoid that you need to mention. Trachea, again, trachea also appears to be in the midline. You are confirming that this now, what if trachea is shifted to one side? Can you comment about the CVS, apical impulse and other things? Trachea is shifted basically because of, anyone want to try? Okay.
In fibrosis towards one side.
Okay. In fibrosis, the upper mediastinum is pulled, so trachea is pulled. Sometimes if it is severe, involving the lower lobe fibrosis also, that will try to pull the lower mediastinum. Heart being the lower mediastinum, the apical impulse will be shifted to one side, pulled. Again, when will you have a push? When you have a pleural effusion. It is a massive pleural effusion. It can shift the trachea when it is very massive. When it is moderate, it can push only the mediastinum, that is your heart. Okay. So by telling trachea is the midline, again you are ruling out the respiratory causes. So here you want to say chest is symmetrical, bony abnormalities. No, there are no bony abnormalities. And trachea is the midline, so you want to say there are no RS etiology to explain the CVS findings. So then we move on to the apical impulse. So the normal apical impulse position.
Left to fifth intercostal space, 1.25 centimeter medial to the midclavicular.
Normally what it says, left to fifth intercostal space, half an inch medial to the midclavicular line. Yes. So here she says it is the sixth intercostal space, 1.5 centimeter lateral to the midclavicle. So here the heart is shifted. That gives you a clue of what?
Heart is dilated and
okay. So it is not only left ventricular hypertrophy as you see in aortic stenosis, where there will only be a lateral displacement. Then you have a downward and lateral displacement. There is a volume overload state in the left ventricle. That is what the clue is. Okay, leave alone all this. Any extra points that you told is suprasternal pulsations. Now, what other things you are expected to tell in the inspection is your tracheal trachea is the midline, chest symmetry, apical impulse, any other visible pulsations in the parasternal region or in the pulmonary area. Okay, that we can say.
Okay.
Next, palpation.
Palpation, trachea confirmed to be in the midline, hyperdynamic apical impulse felt at the left 60 intercostal space, 1.5 centimeter lateral to the midclavicular line, suprasternal and hepatic pulsations felt, no thrill, no parasternal heave. Percussion.
Okay, we'll stop with this. Palpation is, again, you need to say chest symmetry. Palpation is the first time you are touching the patient. So chest symmetry is confirmed, trachea is in the midline. Then you have to talk about the apical position, apical impulse position. Here you are given an opportunity to assess the nature of the apical impulse. Okay. So what is the normal apical impulse? How does a normal apical impulse feel for you and me? Then only you should know the other hyperdynamic and other this you can
tapping,
feel. It is just a tapping. What we call is normal is just a tapping. Whereas tapping, when you use the term tapping, it means mitral stenosis. When you use the term hyperdynamic, it is suggests to offer regurgitant lesion. Okay, then you have another. What is the other apical impulse?
Heaving.
Heaving. Okay, the difference between heaving and the hyperdynamic is?
Heaving is sustained lifting, ma'am.
Yeah,
Here
the
it is
duration is more, amplitude is less, whereas in hyperdynamic you have both increase in the amplitude as well as in the duration. It will be a rapid. You can only feel a hyperdynamic impulse. We'll show you when you come. Okay. So here she's committed a hyperdynamic, more an increase in the amplitude than the duration, unlike your heaving apical impulse. And the other thing what you have to assess about the apical impulse is thrill, any associated thrill. Okay, so there is you should know how to feel for the apical impulse. Apical impulse, generally first we should place both the hands over the chest. Why? To start with, you should put both your palms on both sides of the chest while assessing the apical impulse. Why?
Dextrocardia.
To rule out any dextrocardia. Then when you understand it is on the left side, then you should use your ulnar surface of the palm. And then you should localize. Once you localize in the intercostal space, then you can put your fingertip to assess the exact position and the nature of the apical impulse. When you have difficulty in doing this, when you're not able to find out the apical impulse, you can put the patient in left lateral position and then you can identify. Yet another very easy method is, but actually used as a last resort, is to put your step, look for the heart sound and then put your finger in the this. Now, apical impulse, as we say, is the outermost and lowermost apical impulse that gives a thrust to the palpating finger. Okay, right. Then
percussion. Right and left borders of heart are percussed and found to be thin.
We haven't done with the apical impulse. No? So apical impulse anga feel பண்ணிட்டு, then what will you look for?
Any thrill or?
Yeah, after looking for thrill, you have to look for any pulmonary palpable P2. Then you have to look for parasternal heave. These are the three things that you should look for in palpation. One is apical impulse. Number two is palpable P2 in the second intercostal, left second intercostal space. Third is you should look for parasternal heave. There are various. What does parasternal heave mean? What are you looking for?
Right ventricular hypertrophy.
Right ventricular hypertrophy, or sometimes even left atrial enlargement. So there are various methods. The common method now we use is the 3-finger method. So one finger in the second intercostal space, another in the third, and another in the fourth intercostal space. We will demonstrate, don't worry. You should feel and you should ask the patient to hold the breath in expiration, then look for any pulsations. Why should we ask the patient to hold an expiration? What happens during inspiration?
Increased venous return.
Inspiration la vande increased venous return. So what will happen? So there's a negative pressure. Okay, so the heart is away from your chest wall. During expiration, what happens? The lung and the heart comes forward and it is coming close to the chest wall. Okay, so when you hold the breath in expiration, you can identify the cardiac events better. Okay, so with the thrill, after you see in the apical impulse, you should look for thrill in other areas like in aortic area, tricuspid area, and other things. So you should look for apical impulse. You should look for thrills, not only in apical region, also in other areas. You should look out for palpable P2, then you should look out for parasternal heave. With that, your palpation is over. Then percussion. Percussion, again, it's a homework for you. You should know. Why should we do percussion?
To see if there's any cardiomegaly.
Then, another cause?
Cardiac tamponade.
Cardiac tamponade, cardiac effusion. Agreed. First, you should look for any dextrocardia. Sharia? So, and even pulmonary artery dilatation, you can find out. The method of percussion, just read and come. And don't think we'll skip. In the first initial classes, you need to demonstrate percussion. It's all theory. Please read up, okay? Auscultation.
Auscultation in mitral area, S1, S2 is heard in normal intensity. Aortic area, S1, S2 heard. High pitch decrescendo, ejection diastolic murmur heard with the diaphragm of the stethoscope with patient leaning forwards and breath hold in expiration. Pulmonary area, S1, S2 heard, normal in intensity. Tricuspid area, S1, S2 heard, normal in intensity.
Okay. So, see, auscultation, class discussion, I don't understand. So, auscultation, you have a general methodology is you should follow a zigzag method, first in the apical impulse, then in the tricuspid region, third in the pulmonary area, fourth in the aortic area, fifth in the second aortic area. Got it?
Yes.
Or you want me to repeat?
Repeat on.
Yeah. Mitral area, tricuspid, pulmonary, aortic. And if you have any findings in the aortic area, you need to examine for the herbs area or the second aortic area.
Okay.
I hope you all know where is the herbs area.
The third intercostal space below the aortic area, no?
Below the?
Aortic area.
Below the aortic area. Okay, so the left third intercostal space close to the costochondral junction. Okay, okay. So her finding is mitral area, there is no murmur. Sorry. Mitral area is, and you please avoid abbreviation. So first accent, second accent, heard in the mitral area, no other murmur, she says. Directly she goes only to the aortic area. Aortic area Lenama finding?
High pitch decrescendo ejection diastolic murmur.
First always you should talk about the sounds. So what second heart sound is better appreciated in the aortic area and in the pulmonary area. So aortic area, what is the nature, whether it is soft or not? A2 is loud or soft, you should know. Soft usually is present in aortic stenosis. It's normal in other conditions. And then if you have a aortic stenosis, you'll have a what murmur?
Ejection
systolic murmur. Okay. So here she mentions about the high pitched murmur in the second aortic area, Mama. Where it is heard?
Aortic A2.
Aortic area?
Second aortic.
Ejection diastolic murmur heard with the diaphragm of the step with the patient leaning form. Second, see, actually EDM is a localized murmur. The ejection systolic murmur of the aortic stenosis is a that can be conducted even up to the mitral area. Whereas early diastolic murmur is a localized murmur, which is best heard in the second aortic area. I think this we need not discuss more because you need to auscultate. Okay. So she has mentioned only about the early diastolic murmur, which is suggestive of aortic regurgitation. Yes. The other areas, according to her, is normal. Okay.
Other
proceed.
Respiratory system.
What is Carvalho's sign? What is Carvalho's sign? The right-sided events are all best heard in inspiration. Left side during expiration. Okay. With the diaphragm of the step, with the patient leaning forward, breath held in expiration. So aortic is a left-sided event. Yes. Other system, according to her, is normal. Yes. Move on to the next slide.
Diagnosis, ma'am.
So diagnosis, excellent. Yes.
Case of acquired disease of senile or degenerative calcific aortic valve disease with aortic regurgitation. The patient is in sinus rhythm, not in failure, no signs of pulmonary hypertension, and without endocarditis complications.
Okay, so this is a complete diagnosis. So first you have to say whether it's a congenital heart disease or an acquired heart disease. So acquired valvular heart disease, probably degenerative aortic valve disease resulting in aortic regurgitation. The patient is in sinus rhythm, no evidence of congestive cardiac failure, with no evidence of pulmonary hypertension. The patient is in sinus rhythm according to your pulse. The patient is not in congestive cardiac failure because the patient does not have edema, abdominal distension, or a neck veins. No evidence of pulmonary hypertension in the form of there is no visible pulsations in the second pulmonary area space, where on inspection you don't have visible pulsations. There is no palpable P2. On auscultation, if you have a ejection systolic murmur, okay, there are about 10 signs to say, clinical signs to say whether the patient is having pulmonary hypertension or not. That will all be taught in clinical class. So there is no evidence of pulmonary hypertension and infective endocarditis manifestation. So good. I think I'll stop with this. You want to go with the investigations? Because investigations and treatment is a full major chunk that has to be discussed. We'll stop with this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we forgot about the homework. What are the questions I told you?
New York Heart Association classification. ma'am.
Adala you have to write.
And the congenital heart disease presenting at the 8th decade.
8th decade, not every time. It can be.
Can.
So congenital heart disease that presents in the adult for the first time. Yes, Apro? Francine. Sir.
Then peripheral aortic regurgitation.
Marcus, you have to write it up. Solve your theory. What are the 3 cusps of aortic valve, pulmonary valve? Okay. Again, you should know what is the normal orifice size of aortic valve, mitral valve. Okay. So, if you have found out the answer, you put it up as a WhatsApp message to me. Anyone can put. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Call it a day. Bye, ma.
Thank you.
Bye.